Thank you for joining another wonderful episode of Success Innovation. Today's episode is called Midwest Engineer Out in the Open Range. In this episode, we have the privilege of listening to Stephanie Prado Carbonel. She is a mechanical engineer and currently a graduate research assistant at Oklahoma University. We explore her early beginnings growing up in Oklahoma and how she decided to pursue engineering. We talk about her decision and change of mind from one university to another based on a more educated comparison. Welcome, Stephanie Prado Carbonel. Let's get started. Welcome back to another wonderful episode of Success Innovation. Thank you so much to the audience for joining me and for listening to another episode of Success Innovation. Today, I have a great individual. Her name is Stephanie Prado. She is a mechanical engineering student from the University of Oklahoma. She is currently pursuing her master's in mechanical engineering with a focus in renewable energy. She is an avid Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers advocate. Welcome, Stephanie Prado Carbonel to Success Innovation. How are you doing this day?
Thank you. I'm doing really great. Thank you for having me. Thanks for this wonderful opportunity.
No, thank you so much. So let's, we were talking about, you're over in Oklahoma right now and you're doing an internship. And we were talking about the issues with the internet and the Wi-Fi. We'll definitely touch a little bit on that, but I want you to tell me your early beginnings. Were you born in Oklahoma? Where did your parents come from? And how is your family dynamic from an early stage? What's your background history?
Yeah, I was born in Maracaibo, Venezuela. I grew up in Venezuela until I was about 10 years old. And then my parents, my brother and I, we immigrated to Oklahoma. And well, growing up, we've always been a really close family. And then when I moved here, I didn't really know English besides like, hello, thank you, yes. And I just really found comfort in my math classes because it's the same language worldwide. And I really enjoyed solving problems and figuring things out. And that's kind of where my interest in engineering started.
Okay. So you're from Venezuela and you're
Yes,
coming to a different country, completely different country. So,
completely.
I mean, your parents, how did your parents decide to immigrate with the whole family? How did that come about?
Yeah, well, back in 2007, things were doing so well since I was born, really, was when the dictator took power in Venezuela. But in 2007, it was just really bad. And my parents were seeing the situation was just going to get worse. And so, they made that tough decision to move to the US. My uncle was living in Houston for many, many years. He moved to the US when he was 15. And my aunt, she was actually studying in Oklahoma State. So that's kind of how we knew about Oklahoma. And my parents decided to start a life for us here and provide for us a better future.
Okay. So you're a 10-year-old kid when this is happening.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you came by train, by plane, by car. So can you tell me how that travel portion, because it might be pretty fresh on your mind, and you're like, wow, okay, this is an adventure, because you're looking at it from a kid's point of view, but at the same time, in your mind, you're like, I'm never going back. I'm never going to see my friends again. I'm never going to go back to the same school. I'm leaving my homeland. I'm leaving my comfort zone, per se, because that's the neighborhood you grew up in up until the age of 10 was your world. Your favorite show, whatever it was, you're like, I hope that I can watch it wherever we're going. But that's kind of, so kind of tell me about that.
You know, I knew I was leaving. I actually knew, even though I was 10, I was a very mature 10-year-old. My brother, he's 3 years younger than me. He didn't know. He didn't know what was going on. Um, I said bye, but I just kind of brought Venezuela with me in my heart. And I knew that everything was going to be okay because I was going to be with my parents and my brother, and that's all that really mattered to me, because home is where they are. So we started a new home, and it was hard at first, but I was also really excited to be in a new school, to meet new people, have more opportunities, have freedom. So I was excited, but I also knew I was leaving behind my country, and I didn't know when I was going to go back again. So it was like a mixture of both, I think. But I just always try to make the best of it in tough situations. And I think it was a great growing experience for me. And it really taught me how to be mature at an early age, and help my parents translate, because I learned English in like 3 months. I was a 10-year-old, so you learn really quickly. And I was helping my parents translate with lawyers, translate mail, like bills that would come in, just, pretty much everything. So, yeah, that's what
No,
I remember.
no, that makes sense because as an older, as the firstborn per se, you're kind of given that responsibility and you forego some of the kid life that you had, right? Your childhood's kind of transformed or cut short to a certain extent because you're now the translator. You're now the individual who's has to have responsibilities to a certain extent of when are the bills due, or if there's a problem with, let's say, the electricity bill, you're the one that is on the phone as a 10, 13-year-old kid, and your parents are telling you, dile que la luz no se prende. So you're like, our light doesn't go on. We want to know why. And then the other person on the phone says, well, we don't have personnel to go out there today. We can do it in like 2 days from 2 to 4. Is that okay? Is somebody going to be home? And you're like, mamá, dice que no tienen personal para venir hoy. Van a venir como en unos 2, 3 días, el martes tal vez, entre 2 a 4. ¿Está bien contigo? ¿Van a estar aquí? And then you translate it to the other person on the other line. You're like, okay, so you're becoming, and you kind of learn this finagle responsibility and finagle how to work with money to a certain extent and how much electricity costs. And then you're like, okay, we got to make ends meet. What's going on? So once again, going back to like childhood being truncated to a certain point. Now, that is very important because I want to also find out from you, were your parents, when they came here, did they already have, I'm assuming we're over in Venezuela, they had a profession or whatever they were doing to earn a living. When they get immigrated over here, I don't know how they did it, but that's a different story. Are you a DACA recipient?
No, I'm not. So we immigrated with a work visa from my parents' family company. And then from there, it was a long process, I don't know, 7 years or so. And then by the grace of God, we became U.S. residents.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a huge blessing, because I remember my freshman year of college, I was still on my dad's work visa. So I was considered as an international student, even though I had graduated from high school in Oklahoma. So paying tuition was very tough because I couldn't apply for FAFSA or any of the other scholarships. So my first year, I very much, was saving a lot of money and paying a lot of money in tuition. But then, thank goodness, the second year, sophomore, I got my green card, and then I was able to apply for all the scholarships, all the FAFSA, and I got a full ride the rest of the way. So
Yeah.
that was huge.
And the reason I touch upon this subject is not to be political, but it is very important for a lot of immigrant students and a lot of immigrants that have the thought of, hey, I want to pursue a higher education, but sometimes the financial burden on them is too hard. And I'm glad that you were able to navigate through that. And I'm glad that your legal status kind of cleared up in time for you and your parents to be able to be solvent on that aspect. So I want to go back to because when you were 10, you came in at an elementary level, maybe fifth or sixth grade, somewhere around there. And then when you're going over into middle school, that's when it starts getting a little interesting for you. How did you find out about STEM and engineering?
Yeah. So I remember middle school very clearly. I was excelling at math and my grades were really great. And my principal or vice principal brought me into the office, and she suggested I apply to this AVID program, which is Advancement via Individual Determination. And it's a program in high school where students like me, underrepresented students, minority students, can be involved in a program where they guide you to go to college and they prepare you to go to college. So I took that opportunity, and throughout high school, I would go to college tours for free. I could, take the ACT, the SAT paid for. I was encouraged to take concurrent enrollment classes. And while I was in high school, I was also taking community college classes. So I was getting already college credit. And just being in that environment and having someone like my AVID instructor was like a guide, like a counselor for me, because my parents didn't go to school here in the US, so they couldn't really guide me in that aspect. And he noticed that I was, very good at math, so he suggested I join the pre-engineering program. And so I applied to that, and in my last 2 years of high school, I would go to Tulsa Technology Center half of the day and take pre-engineering courses. I was in the first robotics team. So just being in that, college preparation and like pre-engineering environment was like, oh, I love this. Like, this is what I want to do, solve problems. I don't know what kind of engineer I want to be, but I know that this is what I like. So.
Okay. All right. So in high school, you went through, did you do 4 years of AVID?
Yeah.
You did 4 years of AVID. Off of that, what was your fondest memory from being
From
in
AVID?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, the friendships. The only high school friends I keep up with is my AVID family. We would volunteer together. We would apply to scholarships together. We're all huge nerds and we were excited to go to college. So I was in an environment where I felt like I belonged. Their parents didn't go to college here either or at all. So, we all understood each other. And then we also had motivational speakers every Monday. And it was people that had really tough upbringings and, they succeeded and got their degrees and doing amazing things. And I remember that vividly because every week we were being motivated to like push ourselves. And it was great.
Okay. So in AVID, you're doing field trips over to colleges. Were they just local colleges, community colleges, and the University of Oklahoma, or was there some further away colleges that you actually had to go to?
They were all local. We visited all the universities here in Oklahoma, but we were encouraged to apply outside of Oklahoma.
Okay, fair enough. How did you decide to pursue engineering? Because in AVID, you were exposed to so many different fields of STEM. You could have gone a medical career. You could have gone to be a lawyer. You could have. How did you focus yourself to be a mechanical engineer, where there's so many vast options that were open to you?
Yeah. So I actually, growing up, I wanted to be a fashion designer.
Okay.
Then I wanted to be a veterinarian because my dad was a veterinarian in Venezuela and I have horses and I love them. Then I wanted to be like a dentist or an orthodontist. Then I realized I didn't really like blood or, that aspect of it. So then being in the pre-engineering program and understanding that math is the basis of it, and it is my favorite subject. And being in the robotics team and solving problems and working as a team, I knew that I wanted to be an engineer.
How old were you in that time?
16, 17.
So you were around the junior in high school? Yeah.
Around there, yeah.
Right. Okay. And I want to put this into perspective so that the audience, maybe younger listeners, can kind of figure out, well, I don't know what I want to do. I want to be this, I want to be that, but when do I have to decide? And to be honest with you, there's no right or wrong answer. When it comes to you, you just have to believe it in yourself. And myself, when I was a kid, and I'm also an immigrant to the United States, and when I was a kid, I used to watch a lot of shows. And back in 1986, when I was a young elementary school kid in Mexico, I actually watched the shuttle launches. So I wanted to be an astronaut. I watched them on TV. So I wanted to be an astronaut. And then I wanted to be like a firefighter. And then I wanted to be a professional scuba diver, right? Because they had shows about professional scuba diving. So I wanted to be like deep diving and welding underwater and doing some sort of stuff like that. Well, when we came over here, we were riding over this. There's this complex of, the highway structure in San Diego is incredible. So we were riding in this Impala 1972, and we were just gliding. And I don't know if you've ridden in one of those older cars, but the suspension is so nice because it just feels like floating. So we're riding along a highway, and all of a sudden, it's this gorge on the bottom, and the highway just keeps going over the gorge. And I'm like, I saw buildings that were so tall, and it felt like I was flying. So I'm a 10-year-old kid, and I look over in wonder and awe, and I asked my dad, how is this possible? It feels like we're flying. Who did this? And he's like, well, I think that they're civil engineers. And I'm like, civil engineers? What exactly do they do? And they're like, well, they do skyscrapers, and they do highways, and they do a lot of stuff that they build it. But the construction workers are the ones that actually do it. The engineers are the ones that design it. I'm like, oh, okay. So I stopped asking a lot of questions. I'm like, years went by, and then you make a decision at some point. But there's got to be something in your life that you find interesting and you're passionate about. So that's what I'm getting at. For the younger audience or for those professionals, it is never too late to make a correction in your path. Follow who you want to be. It's going to be hard work, and don't go with the money. Just don't follow the money, because ultimately you'll find joy in doing what you really want to do, and that'll make you successful. And that's what this whole podcast is about, how to be successful, and bringing individuals such as Stephanie to share the story. This is what the show's about. So, thank you for standing by and listening to this interesting story from my past, and also sharing your story about how you came to be and how you decided to be an engineer. Going over from high school, how did you end up in Oklahoma University of Oklahoma? Did you go straight from high school over there, or did you take the route to go to a community college?
Yeah, well, my last last 2 years of high school, I was going to a community college. Actually, my last year of high school, I was only going to my high school for one class, which was Avid. And then the rest of the time, I was at the Pre-Engineering Academy and at Tulsa Community College. So yeah, I was never really there. Anyways, from there, I knew I wanted to stay close to home. My family lives in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and the colleges nearby that the universities nearby one I was interested in was really Oklahoma State University, which are the Cowboys, the orange one.
Okay.
And I wanted to go over there because my aunt went to school there, and my pre-engineering program, our courses transferred to OSU with credit for engineering. And I actually got a scholarship to go to Oklahoma State because I won the senior design project in my pre-engineering academy. Our team won that year and we were awarded scholarships. But then I went to a summer engineering camp at the University of Oklahoma and that my math teacher told me about, and I loved it. I met professors, I met the staff at the diversity and inclusion office. I found out that they have every type of engineering major, because I didn't know what kind I wanted to be, right? Whereas Oklahoma State didn't have all of the majors. And I fell in love with the campus and the people, and I was like, this could be my family, the diversity inclusion staff. This could be my family here, because the University of Oklahoma is 2-hour drive from my parents' house. And that's like super far away for me. I'm a huge baby, so
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, all right. So in your mind, in your heart, you wanted to go to Oklahoma State University. That's kind of what you had. And I'm pretty sure you had posters and you probably had some shirt in your wardrobe that you had about Oklahoma State University. And you dreamed about going there because in Avid you probably went to the campus and you're like, oh my God, when I come here, blah, blah, blah. Okay. What convinced you to change your mind? I mean, I'm pretty sure that you have that in your it's very cut to the point of when you made that decision and why.
Funny story. Can you see this OU sticker? Like,
yes,
right
I
behind?
can. Yes.
Okay.
Right.
That used to be an OSU sticker, like orange. And then I ripped it off and I put an OU sticker over it because they're our rivals. So I can't have that.
Right. But in your heart, you wanted to be an OSU student.
I did.
How did that change? Was it because?
Yeah, no, it was at that summer engineering camp at OU. Just, being there and I was there for a week. I got to live in the dorms for a week and I got to use the engineering buildings and I got to meet professors and the staff of the diversity inclusion program. And I think the selling point for me was that they had every type of engineering major, because I had heard from, being involved in Avid that college students tend to change their majors a lot until they figure out which one they want to be in. And I was like, well, I can't just switch majors at OSU. I would have to change schools. So I was like, let's just stay at OU. I've already met, staff and professors here, and the buildings were amazing. Like the facilities that they have for engineering, I really like them a lot more than at OSU. So yeah.
Okay, I'm glad that you were able to make that decision and that transition over to University of Oklahoma versus OSU. And you mentioned something interesting. And this goes to showcase that even though you're preparing for a certain school in mind, some of those credits or some of those school works can actually also transfer to something else. But you have to do due diligence to investigate how to be able to transfer those into another university that you really didn't think about. And this is, you're a junior and a senior at that point when you make this determination. How did that happen for you? Did you talk to your counselor? What did they say? Because you mentioned earlier that the coursework that you were taking was really going more geared towards OSU versus the University of Oklahoma. How did that actually work for you with the conversation in your counselor at high school level?
Yeah, the thing was is the pre-engineering program in high school had like I don't know, like a partnership with Oklahoma State. So like most of the pre-engineering students there go to Oklahoma State, and so we were aware, you know, being involved in the program, that our credits would transfer to OSU, but the credits were only for like introduction to engineering courses. So it would have been like maybe 1 or 2 classes. It wasn't like a huge deal. And I just knew I wanted to go to the University of Oklahoma. I like that week, that one summer, like that week, you just feel it. I don't know how to explain it, but I made the decision, and losing a couple credits wasn't a big deal for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I just knew I was getting my basis in the pre-engineering program, and that would help me succeed in college. So
okay. All right. So you're heading off to University of Oklahoma. I'm pretty sure your parents helped you. They put everything in the car or in the truck. They boxed it up, and they drove with you to the dorm because you were going to stay at the dorm. There's no way you're going to commute for 2 hours back and forth.
yeah,
I mean, that's
they don't let you.
So, right. So you're going to, they are there, and there's a lot of commotion. Parents and students, new freshmen are coming in, and they're putting everything in the dorm. So when your parents actually kiss you goodbye, te dan tu bendición, and they say, "Me hablas, mija, nos dejas saber cómo estás." They say goodbye, and they leave. And you see the car, and you see the red lights go away, right? You're like, okay, this is surreal. I'm by myself, and this is real now. What was your thought process at that moment?
Oh my gosh. So funny enough, my dad, he's very tough. Okay. I've only seen him cry like 3 times in my life. And when he hugged me like goodbye at the dorms, he cried. I was like, why are you crying? You're gonna make me cry. So it was very emotional. And even though it's 2 hours away, like it's far away. Like you feel that difference because it was my first time being away from home, right. From living with my parents. And I saw them like that Sunday. Like they dropped me off for school, and then I saw them that next week. It was like a huge, monumental thing. We cried. We're like, oh, I'm never gonna see you again. And then I saw them Sunday. Right, so, right. It was like you said, there's a lot going on. I noticed that moving makes me very tired. Like it just takes a lot of energy for me to move and like put everything together and what, and where I wanted to go. And it was hectic. There were so many freshmen, like thousands of people, like them with their families and their boxes. And the dorms are tiny. So like I brought so much stuff. Like my parents wanted me to have everything. They're like, esto no va a caber. Like you need to take this back home. They brought me like a fridge, a microwave, like all these things. Oh my goodness. It was crazy. I remember it so vividly. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and that's why I asked, because your parents must have must have done all that, and thank you for sharing that. And it is a very interesting moment and a very defining moment for students and parents for the most part in the Latino community. It's kind of like they want you to stay home, but at the same time they want to see you succeed. So that's
Yeah.
why it's a very conflicting
Yeah.
and heartfelt moment. And I think
Yeah.
that's why your dad, let his feelings get the best of him, which is good. He
Yeah.
showed his feelings, right? And
Yeah.
so now that you're there and you're going to your first class, you're essentially a big girl now. You have your backpack and you're ready to go. And you get to your first class and you're like, oh my God, I made it to the University of Oklahoma and I'm gonna be an engineer. Okay. So what was your thought? What was going through your mind? What was,
Oh, yeah, I was so excited. I woke up like super early. I was ready to go. My mom made me take my first day picture, and so I sent her that in the family WhatsApp and stuff. And I was walking to class, and I was like, I don't know, 20 minutes early to my class because I'm a huge nerd and I wanted to sit in the front row and
right.
get the best seat and introduce myself to my professor. That's something I learned in Avid, by the way. And, and I made my very first friend in college. I sat next to my friend Brian Sandoval, and he was also part of the diversity and inclusion program I told you about. So right then and there, we became friends, and he told me he already had the calculus textbook and he could share it with me, and I was like, yeah, that'd be great. And I'm still friends with Brian today. He's also doing his master's at OU,
Awesome.
and yeah, I just remember it so vividly. Oh my gosh.
So, then you hit your first midterm and then you hit your final. And what was your mindset at that point? You were like, oh, shoot, this is not Kansas anymore, right? So,
Yeah, my very first dead week, they call it dead week, is the week before finals,
yeah,
where you're just trying to cram everything into
yeah.
your brain. And I remember spending it with a lot of my friends in the library. And during dead week and finals week, they leave the library open 24/7 for students to stay there and study. And I remember we would stay up in the library drinking coffee till like, I don't know, 5 a.m., 3 a.m., late nights. And then we would all walk together back to the dorms and eat a lot of junk food. We ate really badly as freshmen. But I made it through. I remember my first semester, I did really good. My grades were like all A's and B's, and I was just very grateful for the hard work I put in, and my parents were super proud of me. So it was a great feeling.
Okay. How did you find out about SHIP? Because you're an advocate of Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. How did
Yeah.
that happen?
Oh my gosh. So I was a freshman and I was involved in like everything because I wanted to figure out which organization I wanted to stay in. But I actually didn't know about SHEP until I met the president. I was a freshman. It was towards the end of the first semester. And he said, hey, do you want to come volunteer with us to Noche de Ciencias? I had never gone to a SHEP general meeting, anything. I just knew the president, and he invited me to volunteer, and I love volunteering, so I said sure. And so when we get to the high school in Oklahoma City, this high school is majority Hispanics, inner city school, and we were teaching the kids how to build catapults, and the kids actually did a dance, like a folklore, like a traditional Mexican dance. We ate tostadas. It was really cool. And from there, I just stayed involved with SHEP, and here we are now. I'm a lifetime member.
Right. No, that's right. Yeah. How did you, what's the best or most memorable board position that you held?
Oh my gosh. That's a tough one. I think I have a memorable memory from all of them.
Okay.
I would say my last one. I was a vice regional student representative. That was like my last position I held in leadership as an undergraduate student. And I remember going to my last regionals as an undergrad, and it was very like I'm never gonna be an undergrad again. Like, this is it. We're closing the book. So it was great because I could share my insight from serving as president to current presidents in Oklahoma and in North Texas, and having that communication with them and building those friendships and relationships. It's just very memorable. I love working with people, so helping others is definitely my favorite from that position.
Right. So when you first did that Noche de Ciencias up to now, at what point in between there and now did you realize that shit, the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers was not just a club from your university?
Yeah. So I was involved as a freshman, and then my sophomore year, the president was like, "Hey, we're gonna go to this conference in Seattle. Do you want to come?" And I was like, "Seattle? Okay, let's go." Sign me up. And I always thought that it was just a club at my school, and that was it. But then we actually get to Seattle, and it's conference day one. We're all like suited up, and in Seattle, the way the conference layout is that you come in, and then you'd have to take these escalators.
Okay.
And you just go up and up and up, and you keep going up until it's like the big like opening conference day room where everybody's there. And I'm like, wow, there's like thousands of people here that look like me. And I'm like introducing myself. Hey, like, what chapter are you from? Where, and like New York, Florida, like Puerto Rico. I'm like, what? This is not just at my school.
Wait,
it was.
You're not just from Oklahoma? What the heck? You're not just from Oklahoma? What's going on?
It was insane. I was like, where were they hiding you? Like, there's more people like me.
Right. But even just a little side note, in fact, even though you saw so many Latinos that are pursuing engineering, there's 20% of Hispanics in the US, and only 7% of those 20%, 7% of the 20% actually pursue STEM or make it to a STEM career or actually working in a STEM field. So that's still a pretty low number. From those thousands of individuals that you saw there, it's still mind-boggling that there's so much more of our Latino individuals that are not there present. So if all of those kind of pull together, the numbers would be so far more staggering and more impressive than what you saw, even though it's impressive right now. Yeah. So at that point, you realize that it's not just a small club that was started in Oklahoma, right? Okay.
Yeah.
I want to bring this up because I've had a lot of conversations with different individuals, high school students, college, university students, and they think that its own SHIP is Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. It's only a little club within their school, which is totally wrong. It's a functioning organization that is nationwide, and at this point, believe it or not, it's within the U.S., but it's starting to seep out into other nations because other people are starting to say, hey, this is really cool the way they organize it. And I think at this point, I've seen a lot of improvement by Raquel Tames, who's been doing a lot of marketing and branding for SHIP, and that's a powerful thing. She's doing a lot of good things for the organization. Not saying that the other presidents have not, but her presidency has been more of a branding, more of a stepping through, more of a pushing forward, and being involved and sitting at the table and owning the table to a certain extent. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what we need. That's what we need to believe in ourselves. We need to believe that we're stronger, that we need to be more vocal, that we need to be more upfront and be able to share who we are and what we know. And, reaching down and helping as we rise. I think that's one of the mottos. So help as you rise. So that's kind of the motto as well. So you've been so successful. You've been part of SHIP. You've been, going through University of Oklahoma. You're pursuing your master's. You have right now an internship that is virtual because of the whole pandemic that's tackled 2020 for the first half of the year. And I think it's just going to trickle down through the whole year. And it's going to have repercussions, whether we want to believe it or not, for the rest of the 2020 year. I don't know when we'll get back to normality or what the new normality will be. But how is your internship going?
It's going really great. I'm really thankful for this opportunity. And it started June 8th. Within the first week, I already was like, I love this place. I want to work here. So that's a really good thing to have. I like how the college recruitment team is working so hard to make it this virtual internship more real. And, they have an engagement channel, they have a learning opportunities channel, and they're just, really putting an effort for us interns to meet each other and to meet actual full-time employee owners. And they have like technical talks or workshops like for professional development almost every day. I'm having some sort of training. So I'm learning a lot. And because of the pandemic and like there's an economy downfall right now, there's not a lot of work for us interns. So my internship actually is a part-time internship, and then it just depends on if there is work or if there isn't work. So I'm just trying to make the best of what I'm given and trying to make a lot of connections, networking with a lot of people, reaching out, because I can't just, stop by their desk and be like, hey, I'm Stephanie, I'm an intern. I gotta reach out, make a virtual phone call, and that, that might be uncomfortable, but hey, I gotta do something to meet them. So
Right, for sure. So is this your first internship?
No, I had my first internship when I was a sophomore. I was a sophomore, and how many have there been now? Like 5?
Okay, so you've had 5 internships, about 5 internships?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
what would you recommend for students looking for an internship to prepare to obtain an internship?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I would say what helped me is trying to figure out where I wanted to work and what type of work I wanted to do. And how I did that was being involved in SHIP. I met a lot of engineers, met a lot of companies, went to a lot of company tours even. And I think right now with the pandemic situation, I think LinkedIn is a great tool to figure out what's out there and who you could reach out to learn more about what they do, and if that's something that interests you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also YouTube's a great tool. You could learn so much on YouTube about what different companies do. There's a lot of material on there, and work your way backwards. If you look at a company, you look at the job description, it all sounds really interesting to you, then try to get experience in those areas. So is that if a company wants you to design valves, okay, what software do they use? Maybe I can look up that software and learn a little bit more about it this summer, so I have a little bit more experience. So that's what I would say.
Right. And I would add a little more to that, if you're actually talking to somebody from a certain company, know the company's name, know their mission, their vision, know the product that they actually build. This is an example. I worked at solar turbines, and by the name, by default, people think that you build solar panels, right? Well, it's not correct. You actually build industrial engines for creation of energy and power and producing energy. So a lot of students would say, "Oh, I really enjoy, clean energy." So that's fine to a certain degree. But then they go on to say, "I really want to know how you guys build your solar panels." That's a big no-no, because that's not exactly what we do. So make sure that you find out what the company does before you actually go talking to the company. And just don't go by the name alone. Just know who they are and what they do. And to Stephanie's point, learn a little more about the company before you actually step in there and goof it up per se. So that's good. Now with this whole pandemic and the virtual experience, how is your experience with the virtual realm of the internship?
I'm just grateful to have this opportunity. A lot of my friends, their internships were canceled. Some of them, it was going to be their first internship. It really brings me down to hear that. So I'm really trying to make the best of it since I do have one. And also, last summer, I worked in a power plant. And power plants are normally in a really little town in the middle of nowhere. So there wasn't like a place I could rent out and live by the power plant. So I lived at home. So it was like a 1.5-hour drive every day, just one way to the plant. And then after work, I would have to drive 1.5 hours back. This summer I have a 0-minute commute. I get up, I get ready, and I sit here in front of the computer, and I get to be with my family. I've missed them so much. Doing the master's, I really wasn't able to drive 2 hours home every week or every month. It takes a lot more time and dedication during grad school. So right now I get to see my mom, my dad, my brother, whenever, like give them a hug and hang out with them. So it's, in that aspect, it's been really great.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. What are the next steps for Stephanie Prado Carbonel? You most recently are pursuing your master's mechanical engineering. You've been very involved with SHIP. You're doing your internship. But what's next for you? Are you thinking about, staying within the industry? Are you going to go to academia? Any big plans that you might have that you want to share with us?
Yeah, so I think there's so many opportunities for me right now, whether it's, continuing grad school, pursue a PhD, or go out in industry and start working as an engineer. But really right now, I want to graduate with my master's, finish my thesis, and then I want to start working as an engineer, hopefully at Burns & McDonnell, I don't know. And then from there, really just gain more experience. If I want to, learn more about a certain area and I see myself in research, then I would definitely go back for grad school and pursue a PhD and go that route. But I think right now I really want to start working as an engineer and gain more experience in order to make a decision, like a commitment, like a PhD right now. So yeah, I'm very passionate about decreasing harmful emissions in the environment. So I know that I want to be in that area, potentially being in projects with renewable energy and power. I really enjoyed working at a power plant, and at Burns & Mac, I'm in the energy group where they actually designed and provide solutions for power plants. So I really enjoy that aspect. I mean, everybody needs power, everybody needs electricity. So
For the most part, a lot of power plants are still heavily reliant on fossil fuels.
Yeah.
And your focus is on renewable energy, which is wind, water, and or solar. Solar energy. What what since you're doing your master's in renewable energy, do you think that fossil fuels are going to be replaced soon? What's your take on that?
So doing the master's, my focus is in combustion with biofuel, which is an environmentally friendly fuel. And I understand that there's an energy demand that is increasing, expected from right now, 2020 to 2040. At the moment, we can't have renewable energy by itself. We are reliant on fossil fuels. We can't just, get rid of them. But what we can do is provide solutions where we can try to decrease those harmful emissions. And there's a lot of regulation going on right now where, it's making that change. And it's kind of forcing industry to confine in that environmentally friendly solutions. But I think eventually, maybe beyond our time, we might just have renewables and that's it. I think, I don't know, I'm not an expert, but I would say beyond our time. I say beyond 2040, I would say. But right now, we definitely need both. I toured a power plant where it was a simple cycle. So they just have a gas turbine. And so, we've seen a lot of, use of natural gas and then they also have solar panels out there in the plant, and they have a yard with solar panels. That company that I was with last summer, they also had some wind turbines. So, you kind of need both. You can't just rely on sunlight and wind to take you the full way of the energy, the power that you need at the moment.
A mix of your energy there. So yes, fantastic. Now, good leaders always create good leaders. Do you have any individuals you actually look up to, and who are your mentors?
Oh, who do I look up to? Well, I would say my mom.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm very close with my mom. And throughout college, when things were getting very tough, I would just call her, and she would always cheer me up and really give me the strength that I needed to, continue, studying, continue working hard. And then I also have different mentors, like, for example, Brian Martin or Fernando Ceballos. I worked with Fernando when I was on the regional team. He was my regional vice president. So I always reach out to them if I'm trying to make a decision in my career, or if I, need help trying to improve in a certain area. I ask for their advice and their insight. They have a lot of experience, and they're always welcoming to help. And yeah, I would say I can't think of other people right now. If I'm missing them, I'm sorry. I love you.
Right. No, for sure. No, it's always good to have those individuals and those mentors and people you can actually go to if you have a question or a concern or somebody to bounce off ideas from. I'm glad that you acknowledge your mom. What's the biggest or best advice that resonates in your mind every time you have a question that she provided to you?
Okay, that would be actually my abuelita. My abuelita, she gave me this advice. She said, you always got to behave because this world is too small. And oh my gosh, is she right? Like, I listen to that all the time because I love networking and I love meeting people and making relationships. I really think that your network is your net worth. And this world is so small. Oh my gosh. In my internship, I met an engineer that lived in the same building that my mom did when she was growing up. Like, how small is this world? And you know how I met him? My friend is an intern for him.
Oh, wow.
this engineer is like a project manager at Burns and McDonnell and has an intern who happens to be my friend from OU.
Oh, wow. So you're one person connected away from this individual, and you met him, and you probably met the guy in real life, and so you know him, and you're like, oh my God. And that must have been an interesting conversation, how he knew your mom, and how, if that's crazy. Wow.
I know.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I was
So,
like, behave.
right, of course, yes, yes. And to add to that, I always tell students or younger professionals that are starting out is, your network is good, and it weighs a heavy weight, because it's not all of what you know, is who you know, but most importantly is who knows you. That ties into behave, because if you don't behave, and or you do something that other people think that is not necessarily correct, then your network will not vouch for you if you are looking for a job. Somebody might not give you a reference, or somebody might be sitting at the decision table and they're like, ooh, Stephanie Prado Carbonel, what is, no, she did something and this is what happened. And so, next. So that's kind of how it would go. But
Yeah.
yes, I definitely with you on that. So just, to the audience, to the younger professionals, and to the students, make sure you guys behave at all times. That includes in your social networks. And that means Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. And I know a lot of students probably have all those TikTok and Instagram medias. And then they're like, at the professional level, I'll just have my LinkedIn, but on the side, I'll just do whatever I want in my social media over here. No, they're completely tied together. Companies nowadays will actually peruse through those social media realms, and they'll find stuff, and they won't tell you, but they'll know if they want to go further with the conversation or not. So just keep up, be mindful of that. What do you believe your superpower to be? You if you had one. If you don't have one, what superpower would you pick from any superhero, and why?
Oh, I would love to fly.
Okay. Make those commutes a little shorter, I think. Right? Yeah,
I think flying would be cool. The closest as I get to flying is when I'm horseback riding. I feel like I'm flying.
Oh, wow. So you do like, do you have your own horse?
Yeah, I have horses.
Okay. How many do you have? One or two?
4.
You have 4? Okay, awesome. Do you have your own stable, or do you rent them out, or rent out the stalls and whatnot?
Yeah, we have a small piece of land, and I have my horses there. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it might be really difficult for you to move from Oklahoma to another state where your land is reduced to 1,500 square feet of living space, right? Where you have a small front lawn and a small front or backyard per se, because that's kind of what California is like at this point. You don't have a lot. And if you wanted to have a horse, you would either have to go about an hour and a half out of the city and live out there. So it's a little different. But I'm pretty sure that you would have a hard time leaving your babies and not being with them, correct?
Yeah, I mean, even just being at school, like at OU, 2 hours away, is always super tough. I especially miss them during like finals week. I'm like, can I just please get home and see my babies?
So is that kind of your like a stress relieving therapy type of session type of thing?
Yes. I think being an engineer, it's so important to do something that is non-STEM, like something that just gets your mind, a breather. And I love horseback riding, because when I'm horseback riding, I'm just focused on my horse and like what I'm doing. Also dancing. I love doing Zumba with my mom.
Okay.
It's a lot of fun and, very high energy. I think it's important to get exercise and take care of your health.
Right.
So yeah, I like to do that to kind of forget about engineering for a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. No, definitely. Along with that, is there any particular book, movie, or podcast that you believe has made an impact in your life and you actually wish more people would take advantage of it? What would those books or podcasts or movies would you recommend people actually listen, watch, or read?
Mm. There's this movie I really liked, and I can't think of the name right now, which is bad.
What's the
Oh,
movie about?
I remember now. Spare Parts.
Oh yes, okay, yep.
I
Yep.
actually bought the movie for
Mhm.
my Shep chapter, and it's sitting in our little Shep office at OU.
All right.
We had an event, like a movie night for freshmen close to the dorms, because the dorms are like a 15-minute walk from the engineering buildings. So when we hosted Shep events like that far away, freshmen sometimes wouldn't come. And it's kind of hard to keep a organization going if you don't have freshmen in it. So we went to them and had that movie night. We watched Spare Parts. And it's a very inspirational movie of Hispanics in STEM, and trying to make it in STEM. It's not easy, and I think it's definitely tougher for us. But I think us as Hispanic, we just have that like inner strength, to go above and beyond and do amazing things. I think it's just like in our blood. We work really hard, and being an immigrant is just, it's hard, and you just have that inner strength that, it just comes out, and it gives you that extra, push.
Yeah, no, just to expand on this, the movie is based on Hayden University over in Arizona, and the actor is George Lopez, but it's based on a
Mhm.
true story. And the movie tackles about how four students actually made a robotics club, underwater robotics club.
Yeah.
And mind you, this is back in like 2004, six, or somewhere around
Hmm.
there when it actually happens. And those individuals were, for the most part, undocumented students. And the story, the trauma is really well laid out. It's based on real stories. I interviewed Alberto Esparza, who is a founder of Si Se Puede organization, who supported that actual cause of the team and is connected to Freddie, who's the teacher that was there at Carl Hayden High School. So if for the audience, if you want to listen to Alberto Esparza, he has an interview with Success Innovation and it's part of the episode. So just look for Si Se Puede Foundation and listen to the story. And it's really cool. He's a really cool individual. So yes, I own the movie and I watched it like 10, 20 times. So there's so many scenes that really get to me because it's so emotional and it touches a lot of personal feelings and subjects that are really heartfelt on my person. So it's really cool. And I have two small children, 13 and 11-year-old, and they watch it and it's a little interesting and a little different for them versus for me, but at least they're getting the history behind that whole thing. So
Wow.
thank you for bringing that up, and it is really a good movie.
Yeah.
There's funny moments, but it is really a good movie, and in the mindset of a Latino watching this film, it really empowers you, and it really gives you that push to say, if they did it, I can do it.
Yeah.
And if they were able to go through and achieve this with no money, I can do it. And
Yeah.
they overcame so many obstacles, not being able to cross from one state to another with that peace of mind. It's really hard to understand unless you live through it. Because if you don't know, if you're going from Arizona to California, there's immigration checkpoints, and they risk getting stopped and not even getting over to whatever the competition was that they were going to go into. It was that emotional. At least it's emotional for me to be able to know that those guys risked crossing over. So thank you. Thank you, Stephanie.
I'm going to watch that interview. That's awesome that you got to talk to him. Wow.
Yeah. So just go back and watch that
Yeah.
interview. It's really cool. What is your definition of success now? To me, you're a successful individual. To anybody looking at you, you are a successful individual. But to you, as we go along, we have different definitions of success. Today, it's one. Tomorrow, it might change. But I want to know what your definition of success is today.
Today, it's not giving up. Every time I make a mistake, I learn and I keep going.
There you go. So never give up. And every time you make a mistake, get up, learn from it, and continue moving forward. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for that. This is the last question, and I really enjoy asking this question out of all my guests. I want you to go back in time. Let's say you have the opportunity to fly up or get on your horse and ride away in the horizon. And all of a sudden you cross this threshold and you're able to see yourself as a 10-year-old little Stephanie Prado Carbonel. And she's there in this new elementary school. And she's got her backpack on. And she's got this huge smile. And you get off your horse and you can spend about 2 to 3 minutes with her. What 3 pieces of advice would you tell her at that moment?
I'm trying not to cry because I'm like really imagining it. What would I would say love, like just, love people by serving them.
Love by serving them. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome. Thank you, Stephanie. Love by serving them. I think you are doing that. You're doing that through, allowing me to interview you, for sharing this hour with me and the audience, and for sharing your story, for being open, and for being honest with yourself and with who you are, and for touching subjects that maybe you hadn't thought about for a while, and reliving some of those memories with me and sharing them with the audience and however many people actually listen to. If we reach one individual and they make a correction or they make a decision based on this is awesome. Thank you so much. I want to acknowledge you for all you do. I want to acknowledge you for your success in pursuing a university career, for being a mechanical engineer, for pursuing your master's, for pushing past the envelope, for supporting and helping your parents, for supporting and being helpful to your community, for being part of SHIP, a strong advocate, for being able to volunteer and give back, not monetarily per se, but with your time. Time is money. It's a currency that you never get back. So if you spend an hour volunteering with a Noche de Ciencias over at our local high school and showing that a Latina was able to do it when she came as an immigrant 10-year-old kid, and now she's successful doing internships and being able to live to a certain extent your American dream. I want to acknowledge you for that. Thank you so much. To the audience, thank you so much for listening to another wonderful episode of Success Innovation. My name is Lázaro Herrera. I thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I hope that you share, like, and subscribe to the channel. Share the episodes with those who you believe will definitely benefit from. And this has been a very wonderful opportunity for me. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for finishing another wonderful episode with Success Innovation. Today we learned much more about Stephanie Prado Carbonel. We get to know her at a personal level. We learned that her stress relief happens when she rides her horses on the open range. Thank you, Stephanie Prado Carbonel, for all you do. This has been Lázaro Herrera for Success Innovation. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.